video I wanted to make about um, families. Everybody has one, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about that. Uh, my family and how it was with us. I think I mentioned a few times in videos of my siblings and how we never was very close, which was unfortunate. Uh, I'll just start out by talking about my father. My father was a World War II vet. He was in the Navy in the Pacific Theater. Uh, from what my mom told me after he got out of the service, he was very troubled. By that I mean when they used to live in what they call the Boot Hill, Missouri. Basically, only thing down there is farming. So they didn't want to farm. So when my mom and my dad were married, they decided to move to St. Louis to find jobs. Uh, my aunt and uncles did the same thing. Uh, they moved to St. Louis, I believe, in 1946. And my mom told me the story. They had rented an apartment, and before she was able to go into the apartment with my father, she'd have to go in, check everything, check under the beds, and make sure everything was secure before he would go in. And I was always a history buff, and I loved World War II. And my uncle loved to talk about it, so used to ask my dad questions, and he would never speak anything about it. My mom said that was because when she knew him before he went into the service, he didn't drink like he did. He didn't start the drinking real bad until he got back. And I know from experience, through working the VA and all that, that people use drugs, alcohol to try and forget what they've seen or experiences in their lives, especially among veterans. And so my dad apparently really started drinking hard. He would come in drunk a lot. My mom had a funny story where she told me that he come in or inebriated to the point excuse me, he went and took a dump in the Chester drawers, so she had to clean it all out. Um, I didn't know my father very well, which is unfortunate. I wish I did. I did do a few things with him, but most of the time he would spend a lot of his money in the bars. He did get a job there in St. Louis at a company. The company eventually decided they wanted to move out of St. Louis due to tax reasons, from what I understood. And he had a choice between going to it was either North Carolina, South Carolina, one of the two, or he had a choice of Carroll, Illinois. Um, he decided on Carroll because Carroll was closer to St. Louis and closer to where his mom and sister still lived in Boot Hill, Missouri. So after we moved, that was probably around 1970. Uh, when my dad moved down moved down south, he started working at the position he was in at the new factory. Uh, but unfortunately, the drinking did not stop. Uh, that's why I hardly knew my dad. He was always in the bar. He was what they would call a functioning alcoholic. Basically, he would get up every day, go to work 5 days a week. Come Friday, when they got their paycheck, which back in those days everybody got paid on Friday. It wasn't bi-weekly; it was all weekly paycheck. He would go down to the bar. That was in there in Caro, he found with some of the guys he worked with, and he would basically drink up his paycheck. Um, I know a lot of it the bartender stole. Uh, these guys would get drunk. They didn't know what they were doing, so he would basically steal from them. So I know this because my mom did fight with my dad one night that I was able to see as a kid about him drinking up all his money, basically spending his money in the bar. My mom worked at a fiberglass plant. That's how we survived. If she hadn't done that, we would have lost the house and everything else. I think we actually did go on food stamps one time because of the issue. So my dad drank so much eventually. The doctors had, when he did go to the doctors, they told him basically that if he didn't stop drinking, it was going to kill him. And he didn't listen. He just kept drinking. It was funny. I go to a church here in Waterloo. The pastor there, basically, it's said that his dad was the same way. Was an alcoholic, and also, but they also used drugs. And that when he was a little kid, he went up to his dad and asked him to stop drinking. And his dad did, and became a pastor. But when I heard that story, I always wondered, if I would have went to my father and asked him to stop drinking, would he have done it when I was a kid? The only times I remember spending with him, he took me out rabbit hunting one time. That's how I actually got one of my dogs. He did after he went to the doctor. They gave him the diagnosis that he had cirrhosis of the liver, and basically he was going to die. And he decided then to stop drinking, which of course was too late. Um, After he stopped drinking, he was a changed man. He would do things with me. He actually still went to the bar, but he would just drink 7 Up. He wouldn't drink beer. So he took me to the bar a few times. So there's times in this, I remember on summer vacation being in a bar for 6, 7 hours while he sat and talked, and drank 7 Ups. Um, he wound up passing away at the age of 52. I was 10 years old at the time. This was 1977. And so it was just basically me and my mom. My brother and sister, or sister, still live down south. Uh, my brother was a Vietnam vet. He was born in, I believe, 1947. He was what someone said about it being a boomer. Unfortunately, I'm not a boomer. I'm a Gen Xer. But he would be considered a boomer. Would be considered a boomer. He was like me, very much a introvert. He would. My sister had told me stories that he lived in the basement in the house we lived in St. Louis, and she would have to drag him out with her friends to have any social. He didn't. He drawed. He was a very very good artist. Unfortunately, he never did anything with it, uh, which was sad because he did very well. He was an artist. He actually sold some paintings. Um, he also was into models, so he used to do models. When we moved down south, it was he would when I was real little, he would kind of torture me. I know he would get me down, tickle me till I couldn't stand it anymore, stuff like that. So as a kid, I would take revenge on him. He had Playboys and stuff like that, and he would hit because my mom didn't approve of that stuff, and he would hide them. I knew where he hid them, and so he did that to me one day. So I went into his room, pulled out one of his Playboys or whatever dirty book he had, and I walked into my mom was cooking in the kitchen. I walked into her. I said, "Hey, mom," and just spread the book in front of her, and she had a fit. and she took every book he had and burned it. He was livid, saying I should never been in his room. Uh, that I, you know, she had no right, that kind of thing. But I thought it was hilarious. I think I was like 3 at the time, and also too, I would get back at him. He would, when he did something to me, I would go into his model cars and roll them down the basement stairs. Um, so we had a very odd relationship. He was much older than me. When I was like 2 years old, he's already went into the service. He was already graduated in the service. He didn't go to Vietnam. He lucked out. I think I told the story in another video. He knew when he graduated high school that they would send him a draft notice. So he basically decided, well, if I'm going in, I'm going in under my own terms. And so he went. He decided he wanted to go to the Air Force. So he went down to the Air Force recruiter, told him what was going on, and they said, "Yeah, we'll get you in." So he signed the paperwork, and sure enough, after he graduated at 18, he got his draft notice. He called the recruiter. The recruiter said, "Come right down. We'll get you signed in and everything, and the oath and all that he had to do." And so he went down and did that. Was in the Air Force throughout Vietnam. He was in Guantanamo Bay. That's where he was stationed. He was used to tell me stories that when they would go into Guantanamo Bay in Cuba, they would have to avoid Cuban airspace. So the transport plane that he came in would bank. Try to get it down here. It would bank really bad to the left or right, and he would just basically be, against the wall of the plane and couldn't move. Um, he had a really bad marriage, which affected him. He never was quite the same after that either. He did wind up having a daughter. It's my niece who looks eerily like my mom to the point that it was scary. Um, so he wound up going to he stayed in the reserves, and he wound up going to the Desert Storm in the 90s, and they took chemical pills, which wound up affecting him. And they fought that for a long time. He finally got disability, but he wound up passing away with a heart problem. Uh, my other sister who passed away from COVID-19, um, she was kind of a wild person. She kind of like stole a lot, did a lot of bad things. So she had her problems, and like I said, we weren't really close. I did talk to her, um, but she'd go from place to place. She wound up when she passed away. She was in Springfield, Illinois, so I didn't see her that much. I only text her or talk to her on the phone. My other sister, who is still alive, we're not very close. And I think I talked about that in another video. Um, she was very much the person in the family who basically told my mom, gave always in my mom's ear, telling her what to do, that kind of thing, which kind of ticked me off, um, because she would, do stuff that my mom would, uh, go ahead and do it. And one of the incidents I don't think I ever mentioned was my mom was when I was getting my driver's license was going to pass down her car to me, and she was going to pay the insurance. The insurance at the time was not very much. I think it was like $100 a month or less, and she's going to pay the insurance for me because I didn't yet have a job. I was still in high school, and my sister told her, "No, no, no. He needs to get a job. You don't pay the insurance. He needs to get a job." So she listened to her, of course, and I couldn't get a car, so I basically relied on a friend of mine to go places with him, and which was ironic because but ticked me off later in life when my niece started driving. She paid her car insurance. She didn't have a job. Yeah. So, needless to say, that was something that really aggravated me at the time. And the one other person I want to talk to, or talk to, I wish I could still talk to, or I want to talk about is my mom. My mom was an amazing person. She was very much a worker. She was friendly. She's outgoing. Um, she made me mad sometimes due to the fact that I didn't find out know about her, think about it later. But I think and I mentioned this in another video as well, that I think she was suffering from OCD. Um, she eventually got ALS, and which doesn't run in the family. Nobody in my family ever had that disease that I know of or ever heard of. She just got it. It could be for the fact that she worked at a fiberglass plant for many years. Uh, she left that job. She actually went back to school and got her certified nurse assistant. And she did that so she could help take care of my grandmother, who was in a nursing home down in Cairo. And because she wanted to make sure she was taken care of. And it struck her out of the blue. The doctors kept saying she had a stroke. So they put her in rehabilitation. That wasn't working. So finally, my sister said there's something more wrong. So we finally took her to a specialist who looked at her for like 5 minutes and said she had ALS. And it was terminal. Um, and we could all the information we could find on it was it just struck. A lot of times it just struck people out of the blue. A lot of times military for some odd reason. Um, some of it can be hereditary, but this is just how just struck her. She it just it's basically a disease that it's also called Lou Gehrig's disease. It eats away your muscles, and eventually to the point where you can't breathe, and that's what eventually kills you. So she passed away. I believe I was 27. This was 1994, and what I'm getting at all this and talking about my family is that because I have some groups on Facebook that I read some stories about people who lost their family and who are alone, and they have similar stories like me. It's when you lose someone like your mother and your father, your parents, and you're not close to your siblings. A lot of times, the reason why I think I'm not close to them because they're so much older than me. So the point of the video is that if you do have family, cherish them, uh, especially if your parents are still alive. You know, that's a big thing. If your parents are alive, just talk to them. Try to keep a good, rapport with them, good relationship. If you have brothers and sisters, same thing. Try to, do your best. I know things happen, and you can become estranged. I've read stories like that too, but it's just that once they're gone, they're gone, and you can't take anything back. Uh, when my mom passed away, there's nothing I would do or give to be able to talk to her again because I miss her so much because we were so close. So that's the whole point of this video is to if you have family, cherish them while they're here because you might not be able to later. So anyway, I'm thinking of more uh, things to do with the videos. Um, Probably I talk about my depression, anxiety a lot, but sometimes I guess it gets old talking about it all the time. But anyway, I just wanted to speak of some things on family and how kind of important they are in your lives, uh, and that if you have them, like I said, cherish them, talk to them. If they're estranged, try to make amends before it's too late. So anyway, thank you for watching the video. Those who do, I appreciate it. Comments, negative, positive. Thank you. I mean, constructive criticism is just part of life. Um, and also thank you for giving me things to do to how to help my mental health. I appreciate that too. But again, thank you for watching. You all have a great day, and I'll see you later. Thank you.